Well, it looks like the carcass is ready for glue up. I'm just doing a dry fit here and making sure that it's square. But I've got all the dovetails in on the cross members up here, and dovetails, of course, on the bottom. So I think we're pretty much ready. I got to put a couple of holes in the cross members here. We're going to attach the top by putting screws under here, and there'll be screws in the back, but they have to be elongated. The holes in the back have to be elongated. I also added a couple of slots here on either side so that I can use buttons to hold down the center, wooden buttons for holding down the top. Well, there we have it, the initial glue up. We got it square, and it's starting to dry up now. The other one is over here with all its clamps on it. So once we get this dry, and we'll put it on the bottom molding, and that's next. Well, I haven't shown much about what I'm doing here on the bottom, but this is the base that the bottom sits on. So originally we made the big piece of molding here, which is 1 5/8 inch thick. The bottom 7/8, and then you got 3/4 here. Now the molding itself is along the side here. There's a tongue on this piece and a groove on the molding, and the molding is glued to the side, this piece here, which is floating. The molding is glued up front and nailed up front here, but there's nothing holding the molding to the side all the way to the back here, except for the screws that are in this floating bottom, and you can see there's holes along the bottom there. So I've got to put the screws in here and screws in there, which allows the base to move and won't crack the base or the sides, and yet the molding will stay on here. So I've got to do that on the other one yet. This part up here, we've got the cutoffs from when I made it. They'll be glued in there to just finish out that section. And the feet, of course, then are glued to this floating base here, so that the whole thing can move. Well, I've glued up some mahogany and pine here to make the drawer dividers, and they're 13/16 of an inch thick, and they're a little longer than they need to be. I have this template here for the shape that they have to be cut out, and I've got a little wheel. They need to be 1/8 of an inch wider than the drawers themselves to allow for the cock bead. So I've got this little washer here that's 1/8 of an inch, and I can run it along the profile so that it gives me a line that's 1/8 of an inch out. Then I'll bandsaw them off and then clean them up, get them smooth, and then I'll use a router bit to put a bead on both edges for these. The top drawer divider I was working on earlier has only one cock bead on it. Well, I don't have any actual video of running these through to put the cock beading on, but I thought I'd put a little clip in here to show what I did. This is the bit, and really it's just a matter of setting it up and running it through one side, turn it over, put the bead on the other side, and you have to do that obviously before the middle is taken out. Take out the middle. I carve it out now. I've tried different ways of clearing that material out of there with different router bits, and not particularly successful in getting it pretty, so I'd recommend carving it out. Well, after putting the cock beading on the drawer dividers here with the router bit for beading on the corners, you still got to take the middle out, and the only good way I know to do it is to carve it out. I suppose you could use a scraper. And I'm doing it right-handed right now, but we can switch around to left-handed when the grain changes direction. So I got to do it to all of them. Well, I've got the drawer blades in on both of the cases here. So there's one there, and then we have this one over here. And the work isn't that difficult. We'll zoom in here a little bit. So the next steps, they're not glued in yet, but I'm getting ready to glue them in. But then cock beading goes in this groove along the edge here, and we've got the cock bead, of course, on the dividers themselves. This is a little piece of cock beading, and it fits in this groove that we dadoed in there in the beginning. And you can see this has a little 45 on it there, and it fits in here, and then we'd cut a 45 onto the edge there, and the molding would fit, or cock beading would fit right in there. Likewise down here, we put two 45s on the bead and do that. So we got to do that all the way around, but I got to glue them in first. What I did was carved the centers out here after putting the beading on, and then cleaned up where the flat meets the curve or Oxbow curve there. So I'm pretty happy with that. I haven't done down here on the bottom yet. Won't be until I put the feet on. So I'm making some cock beading here. It's a bit noisy. Sorry for getting my fingers kind of close, but there's the bead on there, so now we have to rip it off. There you have it. So I already have 4 of these, so this is the 5th one, should be more than enough.